welcome back to Virtual MOSI. My name is Steven. I'm also one of the other educators here at MOSI. So for this entire week, we're going to be talking about forensic science. So today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite things, and actually the first thing I ever taught here at MOSI, which is going to be about fingerprinting. So if you noticed earlier today, we did post a little sheet that had some information on it about the different types of fingerprints and some spaces for you to fill in your fingerprints. We'll go over through that throughout the day. If you don't have that, that is down in our Facebook. Should be the post right before this. So what we're going to do is we're really going to quickly talk about the three main types of fingerprint patterns there are. So the first one is going to be a whorl, which is the most common fingerprint amongst everyone. That's about 60 to 65% of the population has that fingerprint pattern. Again, everyone's fingerprints are going to be a little bit different. There actually no two are the exact same, even the ones on your fingers are all going to be completely different. So that's something really, really cool. So the next one is going to be a loop, which is the second most common, which is about 30 to 35% of the population is going to have that fingerprint pattern. And then the last one is going to be an arc or an arch, and that is only going to be 5% of the population has a loop. So that's very, very, very uncommon, and I'm actually pretty cool because I have 8 loops. I know, right? Pretty cool. So we're going to find out, and maybe you may have even more than me, but we'll find out throughout the day. So if you come on a little bit closer, we're going to go ahead and show you some different types of fingerprints that can be left behind, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go through them. We're going to talk a little bit about them as well. But one of the really cool ways about leaving fingerprints behind, I'm sure you've seen on some kind of cool TV shows like CSI or anything like that. You see the people in the lab and they're really quickly going through the computer and finding all those really cool matches. But before we get there, people have to go and find those fingerprints out at crime scenes. So there are 3 different ways fingerprints can be left at a crime scene. And the only way those fingerprints are going to be left behind is because there's something on our fingers. So our body is made up of how much water? I want to see if anyone can tell me in the comments how much water our body is made up of. And that water is going to go on through our fingers and our hands and our skin. The oils on our hands as well is what's going to leave a fingerprint behind. So if you have anywhere that's near you that's a flat surface, smooth like a window or a table or anything like that, often if you just take your finger and put it right on the table, you often can see your fingerprint if it's very up close. If you can't, we'll find out what that's called in just a little bit. But there are other ways that fingerprints can be left behind as well. So the 3 kinds are going to be called latent, patent, and plastic. So those are the 3 different kinds of fingerprints that can be left behind. So I'm sure everyone knows what a latent fingerprint is. We'll get back to that one. That's the fun one that everyone definitely wants to do. But my actually favorite one is called a plastic fingerprint. I know, people are like, what does that mean, a plastic fingerprint? But plastic fingerprints are also pretty cool. So if you ever had something like Play-Doh, I'm sure everyone has played with Play-Doh at some point in their life. It's nice and squishy. Clay also does the exact same thing. So what we can do with that is whenever you take it, and if you take your thumb and you squeeze it right down into there, and you were to look down there, I'm not sure if you can see it on the phone or not, we can actually see an imprint of your fingerprint. So that's just pretty much a copy of it. What we can do with that as crime scene investigators, you can actually take that, make a mold of it, and you have an exact copy of someone's fingerprint. Pretty awesome, right? So that's a super, super easy way. If you find one of those, that's super awesome for those investigators because they often can find a pretty good match from that, but often doesn't happen too much. So the next kind is going to be a patent fingerprint. So patent kind of sounds like paint, right? So patent and paint fingerprints are often something that is on your hands, like paint, anything like that. What today we're going to do is we're going to take something, we're going to have an index card, pretty easy, also could use a piece of paper. So if you've ever gotten your fingerprints done for a job or anything like that, you have often done it through either fingerprints with a pad, like an ink pad. You had your thumb on there, and the person would rotate your thumb and have a nice fingerprint left. So this right there is a patent fingerprint. So patent, again, is I stuck my thumb onto something, we got some ink on there, and I left it behind. So again, if you don't have like an ink pad or anything like that at home, an easy way to do that is if you have another index card and you take a pencil. I'm throwing pencils at people. If you have a pencil right over here, you can easily just take that, rub it on there, get all of that graphite onto that index card. same thing, you take your finger and you get it, rub it around, get that all over your fingers, and then you can put it right on there. It's going to be a little bit duller, but the more graphite you get on there, the better fingerprint will come out, okay? So if anyone does do this later, I definitely want to see some pictures. If anyone does that, you can do that right on the sheet that we posted earlier today, and you can easily find your fingerprints out what they are. So the one that everyone definitely knows of during this CSI shows or anything like that is the latent fingerprints. Those are the ones that we cannot see with our own eyes. So remember, like I said earlier, our fingerprints are mostly made, what's left behind is from that oil and that water. So since oil and water do like to absorb things, we have something like a powder. There is specialized powder just like this, often super, super black, so that we can find it very easily. And what that does, it absorbs all of that liquid, all of that water, all of that oil, so we're able to see it with our eyes and are able to find it and lift it up. So I'll show you what all that means in just a minute. But I'm pretty sure most people don't have fingerprint powder just lying around at home. But what most people do have is probably cocoa powder, right? Since everyone's kind of stuck at home right now, you probably have some cocoa powder in your cupboard somewhere. And I'm going to show you how you can use this to find some fingerprints lying around your house, okay? So what you're going to do, what you're going to need, is you're going to need an index card or a piece of paper. Either one works. The stronger the paper, like cardstock, but I like to use index cards because they're super, super easy to use. So in order to get that index card ready, we're also going to need some packing tape. You can also use any kind of clear tape, that's perfectly fine. But what we're going to do to get that ready is we have the tape, and we want to fold in one part so that we're able to pull it off, so it's not stuck to the table whenever we're done. And then on the index card, the side that has the lines, we're going to put the tape face down onto the table. Cool, just like that. See, this side's not sticky, the other side is sticky. Cool, awesome. So we'll come back to that once we have lifted our fingerprints a little bit more, so it's nice and ready whenever we're there. So the next part we're gonna do is we need to get some cocoa powder. So what I like to do is just pour a little bit out onto the lid. Make sure if there's any big lumps or anything like that, you want to get those all nice and soft and powdered. So we do have this really cool fingerprint brush, but again, most people probably don't have one of these lying around at home. You can use something like a makeup brush, but please don't use one that you're going to use for your face again. But you can also use something like just a regular paintbrush, but make sure that it is as large as you can get. Those little tiny ones are a little bit more difficult to do, but still will work in the long run. What you're going to do is you're going to try to find somewhere that does have some sort of fingerprint. If not, so I do see a few right over in this area. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get some of that cocoa powder onto here. You can see it's nice and right there. Yep. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to where I saw the fingerprint. Again, you probably can't see it. I barely can see it right here. What we're going to do is we're going to lightly dust that area. Okay. You can see it a little bit more. I'm going to put a little bit more of our powder on. Try to see if I can get it. There it goes. Right over there, you can see how the cocoa powder is stuck onto the window. All right, you can see a little bit better. Maybe there's probably a little bit of glare on the window, but that cocoa powder is absorbing all of those oils, all of those liquids that were on my skin. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to that index card and the tape that we had earlier. What we're going to do is we're going to take the sticky side, we're going to put it right over the fingerprint, okay? And you're going to want to slowly and carefully put it right over the fingerprint that you found. Make sure it's nice and smooth. And then you're going to slowly pull it off. Okay. Once you have it, it's still a little hard to see, right? Because it's clear. That's why we have that index card. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and tape it right on top of the index card. That's why we have it there. And you can see the fingerprint that we have left behind. Right there. Again, it's still very, very hard to see, right? Even I can't see it with my just my naked eye. But if we have something like a microscope or magnifying glass, sorry, forgot that word for a moment, you can easily see what that fingerprint is. So what this one is, it's a little hard to see. This is actually a whorl. That's what my thumbs are. You kind of see it very close into the center, but again, it's still very, very, very hard to see. Okay? So that is the last activity I have for you guys today. But we're going to kind of review a little bit again. So remember, like I said, there are the three main types of fingerprints patterns that there are. That is going to be the whorl, the arc, and the loop. The loops are the most rare, most uncommon fingerprint patterns there are. And then the whorls are the most common of everyone. Just a fun fact, primates also do have those fingerprint patterns that they are right on your fingers. So they have fingerprint patterns just like we do. So none of them are also the same either. So it's pretty cool. So if you ever see, you know, a gorilla committing a crime, we can figure out which one it is. But yeah, so if you do have any questions, feel free to ask in any of the comments below. And throughout the week, we are actually going to be posting and talking a little bit about a crime that happened here in the exhibit that we are in right now, which is Mission Moonbase. So pay attention to that, look forward to those, and use the skills you learned today and throughout the week to go ahead and try to solve the crime. Friday, during our field trip, we're going to go ahead and kind of review and go over and see if we can figure out who committed the crime. Stay tuned to figure out more about that. Have a great day.